Good evening and welcome to Blogging411, where we talk about blogging for 30 minutes every Wednesday night. And we are so excited to celebrate our 20th episode tonight. So we decided that we were going to change it up a little bit and talk about ourselves. We're going to just talk about how we got into blogging. And that's funny. Somebody's calling me. Hold on one second. Decline. Sorry, everyone. So we're just going to talk about us and how we got into blogging and some of the funny stories behind that, how we all met, and how the Blogging411 show came to be. So I'm going to throw it over to Allison to go ahead and introduce herself, and then we'll go ahead and have Randy introduce himself.
Great. Hi. Happy Wednesday. I am Allison Barrett-Carter. I am a content strategist and freelance writer. I have been blogging for about 5 years, and I love it. My URL is AllisonBcarter.com, and I'm also one of the co-founders of the brand new North Carolina Blogger Network.
And I am Randy Brown. I'm a webmaster and a blogger, and the owner of iHelpers.net, where we can help get your blog online quickly and inexpensively.
And Randy does smile once in a while, too, so we might be able to see that. My name is Nikol Murphy, and I am also a co-founder of NC Blogger Network. You can find us at ncbloggernetwork.com. That is who is hosting the show, and I blog over at momcomplicated.com. So, Allison, I know that you've got a couple questions for us, so why don't you hit us up?
Sure, because you all know from the editorial calendars show on Blogging411 that I love paper. I have a paper list of everything that we're going to cover tonight. And you know, obviously the three of us are bloggers now. We identify a lot with being bloggers. That's why we do this show. We've been in blogging for a while, but we weren't always bloggers. And so one of the questions that we're going to answer for y'all tonight is, what was our first job ever? Randy, go.
First regular job, real life, real world job. Well, I delivered newspapers when I was 9. I don't know if that counts, but I think the first actual paid job where I had to get up and go somewhere was when I was about 16 as a busboy at a miserable little restaurant / old folks home where the owner ended up shooting and killing somebody in the kitchen. It wasn't the greatest place to work. It was interesting, but...
Would that also count as your worst job ever? Or please don't tell me there's something worse than that.
That might be, yeah. Well, maybe not. I don't know. It was exciting. It was an exciting place to work / worst, yeah.
Okay, Nicole, beat that, Nicole.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so my first job...
Your first job and your worst job.
Okay, so my first job, I had the choice. My town had 4,000 people in it, so I had the choice between working at the local A&P and paying union dues or working at the local pharmacy. That was pretty much it. So I chose the local pharmacy, but the drawback there was that you had to count your own change back, but I learned how to do that, and that was a lot of fun. My first real job, I would say, was I managed a restaurant. I actually broke into like this board meeting. I didn't realize who they were, but I was 18, and I told them that they were designing their restaurant all wrong, and I told them why. And then they ended up hiring me as manager, so that was kind of cool. I quit college over that because I was actually going to school to learn how to be a restaurant and hotel manager, and since I already achieved that goal, I just signed myself out. And then is it worst job as well?
Sure. Give it your worst.
The worst job I had was when I was 25. I was a restaurant manager for a different restaurant, and when they decided that they would, when I started, they actually made me wash dishes for a long time. And I hate touching other people, like I hate touching food, so I would just sit there with the sprayer and spray everything for a really, really, really long time.
Awesome.
So I cried. What was Allison, tell us about you.
Well, so I can't remember a time when I wasn't working, which sounds so like child labor laws, but honestly, like from babysitting to then starting in restaurants as soon as I could in the kitchen, where I was basically a runner in the kitchen, and then I would start frying up the chicken livers because we live, in Moneta, Virginia, and I had to make chicken livers for people. And then I spent a lot of time in restaurants, kind of waiting tables and doing that. But I was also a professional ballet dancer. So while I was in restaurants, I was actually being paid to do ballet dancing with companies across Maryland, and then eventually went out to Indianapolis and some summer camps and that sort of thing with various companies. And quit that. That's a whole nother story, but stop doing that. And then my worst job would have had to have been on a break from college on a summer when I was home in, again, Moneta, which I love Moneta. I was helping out a friend, and I was working at the arcade that was next to the only bar. It's an outdoor cafe next to the outdoor bar on Friday and Saturday nights.
That sounds like an awesome job.
Except that there are some very, very seedy men who come through the arcade to gawk at a college girl on a Friday night at 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was kind of a little awkward sometimes, but, hey, it was what it was, so I can't complain. What was your coolest job ever? Since that was not my coolest job, what was your coolest job ever, Randy? Best job?
Well, I don't know about the best, but I think I was a taxi cab driver for a while, and that was pretty cool. It was fun and also very interesting / worst, but that was the coolest, I think. That was a lot of fun.
I would say my coolest job was I was a server on a paddle boat between Naples and Marco Island, Florida. So we would go out for sunset cruises and weddings, and I'd carry 25 dinners on a serving platter while we were out to sea and everything. It was very, very fun.
I actually did something very similar to that on another break in college. Only ours had, for the afternoon crowd, an accordion player the entire.
Nice.
My coolest job was, and this is something that a lot of people now don't know about me, but I spent 7 years working for PBS in Alexandria, Virginia, Arlington, Virginia, doing contract negotiations with the Business Affairs office that was nestled in General Counsel's office. So I actually did long-form legal contracts all about production and rights and revenue sharing. So it was really fun because 7 years really that I was there saw the advent of all these new digital streaming rights that were coming out, and who gets to host what on their websites, and who gets to stream what, and what sort of revenue share is involved with that. And of course PBS was always very interesting because they don't technically own any material. So that was a really cool job. It was really fun. I had a great boss, and I really loved what I did, and I was proud of it too, which really was cool. So I like that. So let's bring it back to blogging. What was your first blog, your very first blog, Randy?
Well, I didn't really start as a blogger, and I still don't really call myself a blogger. I started with a website. So I'm a webmaster. I'm above being a blogger, apparently. I didn't start as a blogger. A lot of people do, but I didn't. So my first website was grownupgeek.com. And then I started a blog related to that after a few months as sort of an SEO tool to try to have more links. I started over at blogger.com to have more links going to the actual website. So I guess technically that blog, which wasn't really a blog at the time, it was more related to the website, was the first blog. But my first online experience was with that website, grownupgeek.com. Nikol?
My first blog was we moved when our kids were really little away from all the family, and so I had like a super tight locked down blogger blog that you had to have like this top secret password and like a drop of blood to get into to share because I'd share like what the baby was doing today and it might still be up, but I'm sure it's locked down. I should probably clean up all that kind of stuff. But that was my first blog, was just, a family thing to let everybody stay in touch with what we were doing. Allison, what was your first blog?
So my first blog was actually about 5 years ago. I was inspired by a model that I saw somebody else doing and decided to kind of adopt it within my own area, and it was Mom in Chapel Hill, momandchapelhillnc.com. It's still alive today, even though I'm not in charge. And it was all about going out and doing things with my child and then writing a review on that in a very real way. So in telling parents what they needed to take with them if they wanted to be successful in this outing, how much it cost, if you could get discounts, like real-time reviews, and really connected to the area. So kept it very local to the Triangle, specifically my area as well. And quite honestly, this all kind of happened because after I quit the job at PBS when I had my first son, I knew that I needed something else, which I think is why a lot of moms get into blogging. You just kind of feel like you want something else. You want a project that's yours. You want something to do. And because I am a crazy person, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm gonna nail it. And so I went kind of crazy for a while because I'm a crazy person and just threw myself into this blog. And it ended up doing much better than I could have anticipated. And I learned so much from that. And I was able actually to sell it and move on to other ventures when the time came. So that was pretty exciting, and now here we are. And that actually makes me want to ask you guys, when you sit down to read a blog, what is your favorite blog to read? I'll let Nikol go first.
Okay. So I actually just answered a question that was posted on Facebook, and it was, do you use, like, what's on your blog loving account? And I have a blog loving account, and I've got some blogs on there, I'm sure. And I also have a Feedly account, which is pathetic. I think there's like 7 websites on there. But I always read AndreaDecker.com with like religious aspect. Like, it's the only one that I go ahead and seek out. I think I might have even started, like, I might have found her like almost right after she started. And then my number 2 would be Money Saving Mom. So those are the 2 that I really, when I'm thinking, oh, I have 4 seconds to read something, those are the 2 blogs that come up to mind. Randy?
I confess I don't read any other blogs. I am not a blog reader. When I first got started as a webmaster and blogging, I used to read like Darren Rose, pro blogger, Shoe Money, and a couple of other being successful online / make money online AdSense type blogs. But in the last several years, I haven't read one, regularly at least.
So, and I make up for Randy's not reading blogs because I read tons. My Feedly is like overwhelmed. I sit down and look at it, and I have everything organized by category. I have all my social media and industry-related ones. But I'm really into, there are 2 mommy-related blogs that I love. I absolutely love. It's Rants from Mommyland and then Mommy Shorts. I think they're so funny and witty and smart, and I just love them. And then the other there are 2 DIY blogs, home improvement blogs I love, and that's Sensational Girl and Young House Love, because Young House Love, wahoo wah, like UVA connection, and they're doing really cool things. So those 4 blogs I'm like always keyed in on. I feel like I know them. I feel like I'm part of their world when I'm reading them, and I just love it. So let's talk for a second about how we got to doing a Blogging 411 show. Like, what do we do now that makes us a blogger? Randy, you are a blogger. And kind of what do we do now? How is blogging a career for us, and why are we on this show? Go ahead, Randy.
Well, I was invited to this show a few times. So I guess now, even though my career is more of a webmaster and helping other bloggers on ihelpers.net, but I do now have a blog that I post in occasionally, technical stuff, how to fix things and things I've found and through being a webmaster. And then I also have a blog now for my big project that I'm working on for next year, my big adventure at saltandseawalk.com. So there I blog sort of about things that are happening and how we're preparing for this big adventure and that sort of thing. So, but career-wise, still don't call myself a blogger.
That's funny. Well, I'll tell you guys how this whole show came about. I am always trying to be very, very cautious about boundaries. And, I know that everyone is always trying to field questions, and, that there's always somebody that's like, hey, can I buy you coffee? And then they're like, so tell me how to build a website. And I always am very, very careful not to be that person. Because I do know a lot of people in the industry. So, I mean, Allison, I paid to attend something that you were a business coach at because I didn't want to do that exact thing and say, hey, let's go to coffee, and then ask you about my blog. And so Randy and I were introduced by a mutual friend, and we talked back and forth and whatnot. But and I'd ask questions here and there, but nothing in depth. What?
You'd ask, how do I build a website?
I totally did. I actually would say, I broke my website. Do you have 4 minutes to fix it? And so on Randy's About Me page, I believe it was, where he said, I don't mind asking questions as long as they're in a public forum. Ask them in my community. Ask them here. Ask them there. And I wanted to install AdSense and really learn AdSense from somebody that knew what he was talking about, and I knew I wasn't the only one. So I approached Randy and said, I will start a show and we will talk about AdSense, and we will go through the details of AdSense, and we'll get it recorded so other people can watch it, and then other people won't bother you, and we'll have it there, and I'll get my one-on-one questions answered. And so that is how it was born. And this blogging show was an AdSense technically an AdSense show back on Talking Moose Media at first.
So I was supposed to be the star, and now you've brought in this new star and pushed me aside and put her up above me on the headlines. It's okay.
That's exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
So then another friend asked, he said, hey, you're a mommy blogger. I need mommy bloggers for a show. And I dragged Allison into the show, and we had so much fun that she said, we should do this again. And I said, okay. And then I said, Randy, I have a great idea. So that's how this show came to be. And I absolutely think this is NC Blogger Network is the third home that it's been on. And I absolutely think it's such a perfect fit. And I'm so glad that they finally came together and we're helping bloggers every week. It's so very, very cool. I'm very happy about all that.
Yeah, that is how that happened. I was trying to remember how I got on this show and how we started this show, and I kind of felt like it's like all of the ideas I talked to Nikol about, like we have this idea, we're like, yeah, that's a really good idea, and then 5 days later she's like, all right, great, so we're scheduled to implement this idea at this time, show up, be there. I'm like, oh, I kind of thought that was just an idea, but cool, I'll be there.
And don't forget to look at the show notes.
And don't forget to look at the notes. But I have been on a huge journey ever since I left PBS and had my first child. I did group fitness management at a local gym, still at that gym, still love it, but I did management for a little while, and that just wasn't the right fit. And I was trying to find something that really fed into my passions and fed into what I loved and wanted to spend my time doing anyway, but that also had a flexible enough schedule for me to work in the mom's schedule, right, which is especially hard when you have 2 little ones. And after Mom in Chapel Hill was done, and I was kind of reeling from just how incredibly chaotic that was from all the demands and the emails and the advertising and the sponsors and getting content and writing content, I kind of said, whoa, okay, I love blogging. I love it. I love looking at other blogs and helping them figure out who they are. And when I do blog consultations with people, I joke, we always become friends afterwards. And I always kind of joke because it's almost like a therapy session. We go back to the basics of why are you doing this? What do you want to say? Who do you want to be? And who do you want to be on the screen? And how do we get there? And I love doing that. I absolutely feel so strongly that blogging is a wonderful outlet for anybody. It's the great equalizer, and anybody can be anybody they want to be. You can get an entire new career from blogging if you go get it. And then I've always been a writer. It's always been in my blood. I did a lot of newspaper stints and worked in journalism, have journalism classes under my belt at UVA, and the blog community allows me an opportunity to stretch my legs with being a creative writer on a platform that doesn't require me constantly pitching to magazines and constantly pitching to newspapers. I can put it out there, see who bites. And then in the meantime, I am getting published in anthologies and that sort of thing now because I have that platform. But also just the businesses that need writers is such a wonderful time for me as a writer. I mean, I'll write about anything because I like to learn and I like to synthesize information and present it. And I think blogging is a phenomenal opportunity for everybody to learn and all the writers out there to really be appreciated for once, and to say, like, businesses now need us in a very real, prominent, urgent way, and as a writer, you can be somebody now. And so it's been a phenomenal journey. It's still not over. I still don't know where it's going to end, but I know that what I'm doing right now, I really love. So I feel fortunate for blogging and glad I found it. And I will add really quickly while I'm on my whole passion speech that blogging is nothing to be ashamed of anymore, right? So one of the things that I remember was right before, in my early days of Mom in Chapel Hill, people would say, like, what do you do? Well, I stay at home and I blog. But it was almost like I was embarrassed to tell people about it. And I even got some reactions where people would kind of roll their eyes and be like, oh, blogging, like, what's that? Blah. And now people realize it's such an industry and it's such a business. And now blogging is something respectable and it's something that people want bloggers in their corners, and brands and agencies now are reaching out to bloggers because we have influence. So it's been really fun over the past couple of years just to see how blogging has become something that stands on its own, and we should all be proud to be bloggers. So, Nikol, we're going to make that a new bumper sticker. Proud to be bloggers.
I agree. And so really quick, I don't know if I even answered the question, but the reason I got into blogging was because I was an events manager. And being away from the house 12 hours a day just wasn't gonna work. It was like a military operation to get away. I would set up daycare, I would set up backup babysitters, and it always fell apart. Like, it was always a very stressful situation to get to the event. Somebody got sick, then somebody's car would break down, and so I finally was like, I need to do something at home, and I need to be able to produce the product and then put it out. And so that's where blogging came from, because I was like, I still have things to say. I feel like but I need to rein it in and realize the place that I am in my life and kind of honor that, respect that, and work within those boundaries instead of trying to fight them.
Nice. So 5 minutes left. 5 years from now, where do you think you'll be with blogging?
Randy?
I didn't hear the whole question. You cut out. What is it? 5 years from now, what?
5 years from now, where are you going to be with blogging and your webmastering? Where do you want to be? You want to be like webmaster of 50? You want one perfect one? Are you going to be blogging more? Are you going to be blogging less? Where do you think you're going to be in 5 years?
Well, I hope to be webmastering more. And yeah, it would be nice to have one or two of the best websites in the world ever, but I don't know what the chances of that happening are. I'd also like to see iHelpers.net take off a little bit more and expand. So we'll check back. I'm going to mark this on my calendar 5 years from now to see how that goes. Nikol?
So I've got a couple of book titles that I've been sitting on that I really would like to get organized enough to write, and that would be fun to get out there. And I would just like to see, I don't know, where it's going to go. I'm excited that, since I've started my blog in January, our lives have already taken drastic turns, so who knows? I'd love to be in an RV traveling around the country, blogging about our experience and going to visit places, and so you just never know. That's kind of
So I'll go ahead and jump in. I have to say that I'm not really sure what's going to happen in 5 years. If you had told me 5 years ago that blogging would be as big as it is, and the fact that I would be doing blog presentations at conferences and that I would have this, people contacting me about content strategy, I would have said, oh, you're crazy. But here I am, and I only hope that in 5 years, my goal is to remain true to what I want to do and not get caught up in what everybody else is doing, which is really hard, right? Because you want to stay above the fray, you want to stay above the fold, you want to be noticed, so it's pretty hard to do. But I would also like to, on a personal note, keep doing my creative writing. That's practice, it's discipline, it's something that always I put aside for work that I still love, but that does bring the paycheck, because that creative writing stuff, it's a lot harder to make $1 out of that. But I want to keep challenging myself to write. I know I'm not going to have a book. I probably will not have a book, but that's okay. I am okay with that. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, and 5 years from now, I will have all my blogs on iHelpersNet with Randy. How's that sound, Randy?
That sounds great, yeah. That's a lofty goal, yes.
Yes, it sounds good. Well, I guess one of the things that we should kind of conclude with is, what excites you the most about blogs? What do you like most about blogs? Go ahead, Nikol.
Oh my gosh. I just love how different each and every one is. And I really, really, truly believe that everybody's story is unique and valuable, and everyone does have a different point of view, and they bring something different to the table because of their experiences. And I love when people go ahead and are brave enough to talk about that. And I love the transparency that is happening with some of the blogs that I'm finding. So I don't know. I guess that's what I really love. And what I'm really excited about with the NC Blogger Network is that we're supporting all of that. I love being a cheerleader for people, and I feel like that is one of the things that we're doing with the network, and so that's making me very excited.
Yeah, I love that. What I love is that a blog will let anybody tell the world about whatever it is they need to tell the world about, whether it's their expertise in a product or a service for their business, or just what somebody had for dinner last night and everything in between. It's just the ability to broadcast to the world whatever you want to broadcast to the world.
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons why I love blogs too. And I'll say that another big thing I'm finding that really pulls me into blogs and attracts me is the fact that I think it's eye-opening for a lot of people to read firsthand accounts of the way life is not within their sphere, and to hear real stories from real people about different lives and lifestyles. And I think that there are a lot of trolls out there, there are a lot of mean people. I know that it's really hard sometimes to be in front of a screen and not slough off a nasty comment because you feel one step removed, but I also feel like blogs are starting to push through that. There's a real sense of community and a real sense of, wow, I might not agree, but that's a very powerful, passionate voice for that topic, and I can respect that. And I feel like there's a lot of community movement going on around blogs.
I'd agree.
Well, we are out of time, right, Nikol?
We are. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today and celebrating our 20th episode, and we will see you next week for number 21.
Yay.